Anyway.
Dutch is my favorite language.
Yeah, Dutch is our favorite language. There are many Dutch people here, but also people from Australia, from Canada. Isn't it amazing? Yeah. I mean, we feel so privileged to join with all of you. And from Denmark, and from Belgium, and from the Netherlands. And did I forget any countries? Finland? Oh, I want to meet you. That's a new country that is not still on my list of 24 already. Wow. What's your name? Katarina.
Katarina.
See you later. Wonderful. I'm so happy that the pandemic is gone and that we now can meet live. But we have learned a lot from working online. So there is, fortunately, a possibility to be online also for the people who don't have the time or the money to travel or have busy lives. So I have no idea how many people are zugeschaltet. Schönes Wort. But it's a hybrid conference, so we start with some explanations. But if we have discussions, then you're kindly requested to go to the microphone so that the people at home can follow you as well. Well, welcome. We are Hans Bom and Eliane Wiebenge, and we have worked together for 20 years in the Lorenzhuis in Haarlem. That's an institution for systemic therapy, education and consultation. And it's also, we are very proud that our institute was the institute that introduced NVR in the Netherlands in 2005. So it's now 18 years that we've been dedicated to these thoughts. And we have learned and also co-developed all the different steps to New Authority, to what we thought we would love to say it, connecting authority. We can tell a lot about that, but that's not the focus of our workshop. The workshop is that when it became very popular, it is very popular in the Netherlands. I think there's no province, no institute that at least hasn't heard about it or has implemented it already. But in becoming it to be so popular, we became a little bit worried, to be honest, because it became more or less a toolkit, which was too easily implemented and too flattened, actually, if you could say so. And so it was like, then for example, we got referrals of parents that, no, we have had that already. And then we said, oh, can you tell me what was your experience and how did you do? And then they said, yeah, we sat once in the room of our son. Nothing about the whole theory, nothing about first an announcement, and most of all, nothing about the underlying beliefs and attitude. And that's when we decided we have the illusion of control, so we cannot tell this to everybody. What we can do is write about it. That's when we wrote an article that was called With the Right Attitude, an intervention becomes more valuable and has more results. And then we really researched what is attitude, how is it related to words and beliefs, and Hans is going to explain that to you, because that is the basis. And then we said, yeah, but that's still very theoretical. How can we put it again? How can we link it again to practice, so that everybody can work with it, that it becomes possible to turn it into not too difficult things. And that's how we developed a compass. And we like all the sailing metaphors, like the anchoring function. And so we made the lighthouse, and we have made the compass, but that's just a metaphor. And this compass we will also explain. So it focuses on attitude, on values, and especially we're systemic therapists, deeply in our heart. We focus very much on the alliance between professionals and parents, or between teachers and pupils. It's the alliance that contributes far more to results than a method whatsoever. And if you have a certain attitude, you can invent yourself a lot of interventions, much more than is in the parent manual. It's not limited to what is mentioned in the parent manual, in our view. So then you have an idea of our aim of this workshop. And I'm very happy that Hans is willing to explain you more about it. And we have 2 exercises, and we hope we have enough time for both. But we'll see that in some time. We have it in handouts, so you can take it home and you can work in small groups, and we can discuss the results together, hopefully. The online people can also do it together, but we have chosen to make it a passive hybrid because otherwise it's too difficult for us. Is that more or less what we intended to do?
Yes, I think so. I was in the lecture with Uri, and Uri remembered me of the quote I use a lot in the mountains. I like to walk in the mountains, and then he told me the way is the goal. So the goal of the workshop is the way. So let's go the way.
Let's do it.
And that's always very important to do, because when you don't go on your way, you won't reach any goal.
No.
So let's try.
You have to start with the first step.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And the end time is, so to be clear, what's the
12:30, I think. Yeah.
12:30. Okay. So then we know about the end time. Good.
Yeah.
Well, let's start. Well, you see the first dia is already a failure. So that's one of the very important things to start with. That when we make it, we prepare it and we do our best, and then
you have 2 formats, and I thought we would use our own laptop, so we chose our own format.
The laptop.
Oh,
but it changes.
Wow.
So
Anyway.
the failure is part of life. That's very important, and that's part of the attitude. Well, about myself, and the favorite language is Dutch. So I have to look for words sometimes. That's not only because of the English, I will explain that. That's also my style. So the people who know me know that I'm looking for words and I'm searching and hesitating sometimes a little bit. It's not only that I don't know the words, but it is also looking for the right words in the right moment. So that's part of connecting with you. Once I prepared a lecture also for NVR, and I prepared it very, very much. I wrote it, and it was actually one of my biggest disasters in life. So one of our colleagues who died, unfortunately, Tim, said to me, "Don't prepare, Hans, don't prepare." So you know me already very well. So I'm and we are both preparers, and we like to think about what are we going to do, and that's very important. And therefore, the metaphor of the compass is a very useful metaphor, because a compass is not something you have. It's not something which is static. It's always dynamic. When you change a little bit, the compass changes too. When you are moving forward, the compass changes. Everything changes. So the compass is a very important metaphor to navigate and to be in a field of connections. So that's why it's so useful for it. And well, Eliane already told why it's so important to have attention, to keep attention to attitude, because attitude is one of the key elements in professional acting. You need knowledge, you need skills, you need experience, but attitude is another very important aspect. And attitude is actually difficult to tell something about attitude. What is attitude? What is a right attitude? Is there a right attitude? What does it mean, attitude? And attitude is connected. Shall I go on myself? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
This one is right.
It's working. I'm happy. Oh, yeah. I installed it and I forgot it. So.
No problem. We are a team.
Yeah, we are a team, yeah. Yeah, that's very important, because when I say something, Eliane thinks, well, you have to say this. She will do that, so her voice will be heard. Yesterday she said, yeah, and I said, well, I will seduce you to talk. It's not so difficult.
I'm going to sit here.
I promise it's not difficult. So this is the one of the essential thoughts, and the attitude. What is an attitude? An attitude is everything you have, everything. That's the tone of voice. That is your body gesture. That is the language between the lines. That is something which is not said but which is there, and we know, of course, all that's how it works. You can say, you can resist. You are from the resistance to keep it. You say, well, you don't have to do this. This is a kind of attitude. You can say, you don't have to do this. You can say, you may not do this. This is the same message in a different way. So that's the very simple explanation of attitude. And attitude, so the total gesture of it, it's an invitation to the other. It's always an invitation, because we react to everything the other person is doing. And that's one of the key elements of working with parents, and also one of the key elements of working with adolescents, with youngsters, with kids. So they react to the instinctivity of our expression. That's very important. So attitude is very important. And what we tried to develop, what we developed and tried to think about is how can we make a palette, a differentiation of attitudes on the different, we call it, the pillars are like working fields, are fields you can work on. You can work on the field of presence. Presence is not only a concept, presence is a whole field. What is present? Present is looking at someone. Present is thinking about someone and buying a little thing to give it. Sending a card is presence is a lot. Is a field. Is a field of being. And so for the other pillars, de-escalation is a field. And the field is always in connection with the interaction with the other. And it's the same for reconciliation, for support and resistance. Resistance is a field. Resistance is not I resist to this. Resistance is about clarity, is about rules, is about a plan, is about a lot of things. It's not one thing. And that's for every pillar, it's like a field. And we like to see it as a field. So the pillars of nonviolent resistance are more an oculaire, is more something you look. It's a glass you put on, and it's like a field. So when you are in a case, I'm now in a difficult case with parents, a lot of colleagues, a child, and then I ask questions about how is it with the presence of the helpers, how is it the presence of the parents? Well, the presence of the parents. One parent was in the conversation, the other was at home with the child with severe anorexia, who's nearly dying. And then you ask, well, what is the meaning of the presence? Are there other people present? Is there a brother or a sister present? How is she present? And so on. So the fields of the fields, you could say, are ways of looking in a situation. And then you can ask questions about de-escalation, escalation, de-escalation, with the knowledge we have about the escalations. How is the father in this escalation? How is the mother in the escalation? What is the kind of escalation? Is there a movement? Is there sometimes, are they firm? Sometimes they are just giving in. Huh? You can ask questions about how is about the system as a whole. So in this case, the father was there and he said, yeah, every time there's spoken about a system, so it goes, I know. And I said, what do you mean by that? What is this? Well, the system, yeah, I think it's us. I think, yes, it's you. But it's not only you. It's everyone who is here. Did someone told you? No, nobody told. He said, yeah, we are in the system. I'm in the system too. I'm part of the system now. And maybe I'm part of the escalation. Maybe not. I don't know. What kind of conversations do you already had? Well, that's the kind of questions you can ask. And it's for the colleagues, it's always an adventure to be part of the system. And in such complicated cases, there's happening a lot. So this girl was in a closed ward. This girl was going to home. Now she's in the intensive care. And in all these situations, different people are involved. Different people take the lead. But they have to, they found out every time what is happening, what is the history, what are we going to do. And in this way, the whole system, is escalating, always escalating. Not that they are angry, but they are doing the same thing time and again, time and again, time and again. And the situation becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and stacks more and more and more. So that's a way of looking through the eyes of the fields, the pillars. What's about the support? And so on and so on. So we see the pillars as a way of looking in the field, as an orientation to ask questions. It's very important, liberating view, very liberating view. It's, well, in the preparation, I said it's like a diagnostic tool. And Eliane asked me, what do you mean by that? Well, this is what I mean, more or less. I hope you can understand what I mean. It's a way of looking in a field. And important by looking, when you are attentive to presence, then you see the presence. It is like a language. When you think in English, you hear English. Well, I'm in my backyard. I'm busy with nature. Then I see the nature. It's what you get. You see what you get. Your orientation is very important. Then the field opens up. Yeah, you can imagine. It's very important. It's very helpful because. In systems, the presentation of something is always very dominant. So, for example, in the case I refer to, the presentation it's about starvation, it's about anorexia. That's the presentation. The child is nearly dying. She is 12. So that's terrible. And the presentation narrows the conversation. And it's unavoidable. Everyone does this. But this is not the answer to this systemic problem. The answer is to work on the different fields. And how do you do that? That's not easy. Okay, you can follow me? Okay. And in the way of thinking, you can in every case there's a dominance of a certain pillar. It's never balanced. It's never the same. It's always different. Every person is different. Every system is different. Every problem is different. Every situation is different. So when you characterize the fields, you will find out that in some cases the presence is okay. They had an interesting presence. They are aware of the importance of presence. So no, we don't have to do a lot of work there. But maybe on other fields, they forgot the resistance, for example. It's very common. The resistance is one of the most difficult things. Because how do you do that? In a case of not willing to eat or willing to die or not going to school. Uri explained it in the lecture. These are the very difficult things to resist. You have to puzzle on resistance. What is resistance? It's not easy. And then you have to work on this field. Not only on this field, but on this field in relation to the other fields. And then you try to find the right balance in the right situation. That's not a way of saying. That is the work we have to do. And that is very interesting. And then you can say, well, it's not necessary to do one-sided actions in the field of presence. It's not necessary. But in the field of reconciliation, it's very important to do it, because that was forgotten. It's not bad. It's just forgotten. It's just a way the system acts. It's a repetitive way systems act. It's not intentional. It's a way things go. That's the way things go. And then you can you say, well, that's how it goes. That's attitude. And you can give comment on it. You can say, well, I think there is more possible to do. Did you think about it? How could you do that? Do I have a point? Does it make sense for you? And then you can work on it. You can say, well, let's try. What could be a reconciliation in your situation, and so on. And then you go on. And then you can also be critical. Say, no, I don't think this is a good idea. So you don't have to be only nice, or you can give your own comment. Give your own comment. Not, it's psychological, it's better to not to do it. No, it's just, I don't think it could be better. Maybe you could use your tone of voice a little bit different. What do you think? And so on. That's the way it goes. I will not explain this in all aspects, but it's the way we are thinking. We developed is a way of thinking in dimensions, thinking in relationships, but also in relations, in the concept of relations. So also about authority, we think about authority as a relation. Authority is not a stance, it's a relationship. So when you are very authoritative, that is a way of being in relations. And that way of being has effects on the field of people who are there. And they can accept it, or they can resist, they can go away, they can do something with it. It's not static, it's a dimension. And in the field of social work, we could say, these are very important dimensions, because the powerlessness and the helplessness, we know it's all, that is a very unpleasant feeling for the kid, for the parents, for the helpers, for everyone, unpleasant feeling. And we like to be powerful or influential. We like to be so. And I know I'm not always, but I like to be that. I like to make the difference. I like, as a therapist, to make the difference. The things I said, that made the change. No one has that feeling. I have this feeling sometimes. But I know it's a wish, a dream. So, but it's not, it's also important, but because I am important. I'm just important in relation to the family I'm connected to of the case. So it's not that I have to say, well, that's nonsense. No, it's important, but it's not possible. That's a difference. The other thing is that when a case is very difficult, what happens then? Or in a family, something is difficult. Then you get a feeling, well, it's hopeless. Let go. This is nothing for me. And they don't listen actually. So, and the parents have resistant. They don't collaborate. So, well, I better can try to find another institution or another colleague who will work with these parents, because, well, for me I think I'm the right person. I'm not the right person for this case. So these kinds of movements are in the system. So that's detached. And attached is when you are present, when you are feeling, well, I'm part of the process in a positive way, in a way that I'm a constructive builder of something. Okay, that are dimensions. There's distant and close and little influence, a lot of influence. And then you can see and this is not static, that's very important. It's not static, it's also not the only way in seeing it. You can forget it also. You can use it and you can forget it. So that's also very important. And so the things we know about systems, you can recognize in the way the dimensions are combined. So when you have a lot of influence and you are attached, you can be firm, you can be clear, you feel good, the connection is good. That's we like the most. Let's be honest, we like the most. That's also, you can work in that direction, but it's not always the case. It's not always possible. Every one of us, me too, sometimes I got too dominant. And I think, yeah, this really has to be done. I can do it in a nice way, but I think really it has to be done. Well, they are a little bit stupid, I think. I don't say it, but it really has to be done. Yeah, and you don't have it, it's good, of course. Or, well, let's accept it. There's nothing to do. Very important. It's also a very important attitude, very important way of behaving, because not everything is. You have to accept. It's important, also important. But only accepting is not the best idea. They are giving up. It's in the case I'm now in with the 12-year-old girl. Everyone gives up. Yeah, it's not possible. No, it's not possible. Teams are collapsing. So teams are collapsing. That is a way of giving up. They resign, and it's not intentional. It's not. It's just a feeling. We cannot manage it. It's terrible. They think it's terrible. They feel it as a terrible experience. But giving up, and then life becomes meaningless, also for the parents and the child. So these things are very important. This is a dimensional way of going into the authority. It is not a stance. It's not a fixed something. It's a moving field. Okay, and why is this so important? This is so important because everything we do is embedded in attitude, value, and beliefs. You could say intentions. We all have intentions, intentional actions. And the intentional actions are related to values and beliefs. And the values and beliefs, they result in in the attitude. And what does it mean? This means, when you talk about respect, for example, respect is a very important value as a parent. You like that your child respects you. And you give respect to your child when it's all right. So that's a simple example. That's how we talk. It's important. That's how we talk. That's how we think. That's how our psychological thinking goes as a parent, not as a professional. Respect is important. That's in how people express. The children have to think about their future, and then they don't go to school. Or they have. It's very important. It's a value. And why? Because you believe it's important for the future. Respect is important. You have to learn that. You cannot think only about yourself. You have to learn to think about others. That's a value. And you believe that's very important to find your way in life. And so when you construct and when you talk about this in families, then this is a very interesting conversation because it brings you to your intention, your intentional way why you educate your children. And that's very important for us to connect with, because what I think what a child has to learn is less important than what the parent says he wants his child to learn. To learn, not to be there, to learn, to go the way. And then there is a big struggle about attitude. How do you reach this? You can reach it by Eli Leibowitz just explained it very nicely. Why don't you go to school? Asked to the kids who don't know. Well, it's a logical question, but not the right question. It's not a question which helps. It doesn't open up. And the attitude is, I ask questions, I make contact, and that's the way I reach my child. And then something will happen that he goes to school. But it will not happen. This is not the right attitude for this difficult problem, because it's a difficult problem. We don't know what's happening. It's logical, but it doesn't help. So that's the dance. That's the interesting, the difficult but interesting investigation, research with the parents, with the colleagues. How can we reach the other person? How can we reach the child? And how can we do that with the values, with lifting up the values, with creating the values in our way of talking, feeling, and acting, because we can feel and act in coherence with these values, and then you can practice that. And that is, in difficult cases, very important, because what we are used to do is respond. We must respond. That's also very important, because that's the natural way things go. But you can learn to respond in a different way, and to practice this. And when you connect it to values, it becomes a natural way. It can become a natural way. That you have to practice it, it becomes a natural way, and it makes a difference. Then the system reacts in a different way. That's why it's so important, we think. Well, the compass then, and then we go to the exercise. In the development of the compass, the inspiration was the book of the demonization. You know the book, I think. And in the book of the demonization, this is a great book. But one of the things I didn't like about the formulating, the how it is created, you could say.
Dichotomy?
Yeah. That's the dichotomy. It's about the tragic view and the demonic view, and I didn't like the opposite. It's either or. No, and the examples are great in the book, and the basic thought is great in the book. So that's really worth reading. And then we thought about how could it be more dimensional, closer to reality? Because in my work, in our work, it's not so. In a family, of course, when a child behaves bad, parents said, well, you behave bad. Is that demonic? I don't, yes, a little bit, but I can understand it very well. Sometimes it's necessary to say, well, you don't behave bad. You don't behave well. You have to behave good, my boy. It's very important. So it's not about either or. But in the presentation of the demonic view and the tragic view are some very important key elements. And these key elements, we put it in a dimensional diagram. And we thought about it a lot. And it seems very simple, but for us it was difficult to find it out. So we hope it will inspire you in your work. It helps in your work. Because when I am in a case like I refer to, then the compass is so in my mind, is so in my system, is so in my body, that I'm able to navigate with the compass in a case like this. And the important aspects of the compass are the dimensions: focus on the evil, focus on the what's wrong, you could say, what's wrong, what's happening, in line of focus on the suffering. That's one dimension. So in our field, is it focus on diagnosis? Is there what's wrong, what's happening, what's the behavior, what's the diagnosis? In a case, in every case, but in such a complicated case, it helps a lot. I will give an example of it. And the other dimension is we, in a case where our influence is low, when we don't know what to do. What a lot of people are going to do is focus on the other. It's the human condition. I cannot manage it, the other has to change. And I have it too. I don't like it for myself, but I think, well, yeah, you have to change, of course. It's een brevet van onvermogen. Het is something you don't know. You say, I don't know it. I don't know what to do. And then you say, you have to do it. That's the movement you make. Okay. So in a case like this, and I was sitting there with 15 people, I think, psychiatrists, parents, people of the of Amsterdam and so on. I love you. And I listened, and then I listened to the conversation. And in the conversation, the main aspect of the conversation is, how can she change, the girl of 12 years old? How can she change? And I understand that conversation, of course, because I feel it as this is a terrible situation, so I can imagine. But it don't help, because they do it 4 years already. It didn't help. So then I'm in the conversation. I think, oh, okay, let's focus on everyone's self. And I ask questions on the psychiatrist, very good psychiatrist. So, well, what do you think about the situation? What do you think about the situation? And then she said, well, I think this and this and this. And she said, well, I think we forgot something. Okay, what do you forgot? What do you think? We forgot something about parents, she said. I said, yeah, okay, what then? What do you think we forgot about the parents? Yeah, I think the mother is, maybe there's Munchausen by proxy, she said. I said, oh, what do you mean by that? Okay. Yes, she said she's doing things to not developing her child, something like that. And then I could recognize in myself, oh, I don't like that. I liked the way she started, and now I didn't like. Why? Oh, she's here, and she's here. Can you imagine? And it's not bad. It's understandable. And I ask questions about how do you see. And did you had a conversation already with the mother about this? No. Why not? Wow, it's how can you take a next step? How could you discuss it? Come in a conversation with the mother about this, about the parents about this, but she meant the mother. Oh, that was not that easy. Oh, okay, no. Is that important to do or not? No, and so on. And then what could you do? What do the others think? What do I think? I just said, that's the advantage in being a little bit older. I said, well, I don't like the diagnosis at all, because it's not a diagnosis, actually, because a diagnosis is something you share with the other. So for me, it's helpless. Can you accept it, what I say? Yeah, that's the next step. It's not from, you are doing wrong, you have to change your thoughts. I think it's not a useful diagnosis. And then, what do you think? Can you accept my thoughts about this? And she said, yeah, it's complicated. Yes, it's difficult. I said, yeah, it's difficult, but let's go on, let's try. It's hopeless, but let's try. Huh? But it's a very important contribution. Okay, we have to go on. Yeah, but that's the base. This is actually the base. Yes, you can follow me. And then the two exercises we will make, and I will. Yeah, I will do it. The one is to look with the compass to a situation. So, like, can we see from these eyes how you can characterize a situation? That's the one exercise. The other is, and what could we do to come to make more accent to the right up field? That is not the only one which is necessary, but that is the one that gives the most possibility to develop a case. So you could say it. I will do what you ask.
You seduce me.
Yeah, always, huh? So I just go on, and then we go to it. Nice, huh? They fly in. So when you are working with the compass and you characterize the different segments of it, and you combine it with the the dimensions, you have a very interesting map. It's like a map. And the map helps to navigate in difficult situations. And we have the expert position, knowing what's best. That's a very common, well-known position. And necessary to come there, you have to analyze, you have to follow protocols, you have to do analysis, and so on. It's very important to be good at it. Sometimes there are limits. In this case, the limits were the girl didn't want to eat, so there was forced feeding. So, force, because life was in danger. That's not bad. It's really necessary. It's not bad, but it's not a solution. It's also not a solution because the suffering is not attended enough. The focus on the self is not enough. It's okay. You go to the intensive care, you get in coma, you will be fed. That's the way it goes in this case. And this is an extreme case, but in milder cases, the same process is going on. Okay. Accommodation, submission, permissiveness, accepting the situation, very important attitude aspect, very important. But not only. These parents, they are lying on their back. They nearly accept that their child is going to die. It's acceptance. Accepting the situation. But with great suffering. The suffering is attended, but is not central in the conversation. Because the acceptance overrules the suffering in this case. It's terrible. It's terrible. You lose everything in your life. You lose presence, you lose support, isolation. You lose your educational tools. You lose everything. So the parents are losing this. But the workers, the colleagues, are losing also their power. They don't have power. There is no line. There is no idea about what can we do. So the accommodation and the helplessness is immense. And what helps, maybe, is to work on the field of all these pillars with an attitude where everyone focus on the suffering. What is the suffering from a colleague? What is my suffering? My suffering is that I'm not able to, with all the knowledge I have, to change the situation, and my suffering is my human interest and my feelings, how terrible it is that a 12-year-old child is going to die. That's my suffering. I can feel my suffering. Everyone can feel his suffering, and then go on. And then, but what can I do then? In the best way I am permitted to in my role? That's the next question. That is focused on that. So, and then you can develop a strategy. Actually, it's a strategy. And that is like NVR, a strategy. But now it's more before you say yes to the NVR. It's looking at the field, looking at the dimensions, focusing on the things you recognize which are neglected, and then you try to focus on yourself and focus on the suffering. That's the way you can act in such a situation. And now in this case, I presented a note. I wrote something about it. Yeah, and I will stop. And I suggest something to talk about. to make a conversation about it. Let's do the next step in this direction. Do you agree? Oh, that's the way you can go further on. Okay, that's an explanation about the compass.
Yeah. I'm sorry
Exercise?
I had to end you, but it's so nice to become also more that you can become more active. What I would like to say first is that this is probably the 28th version or something, and at every workshop we do, we get feedback, and it's changing again. We like to see it as a vivid, living instrument, flexible, dynamic, and not static. So if ever you have comments right in the workshop or afterwards, please come to us, and we are loving that. And you also heard Hans said we like to see it. You said once, we have for 18 years conversations all the time, and that's so nice. Do that with your colleagues as well, so that it's not frozen and it becomes frozen in time. It has to be vivid things. So talking about diagnostic, that immediately, can you put a compass? To me, it feels immediately, oh, are we going to ask them from an expert position to look at the case? That's not what we aim at, isn't it? And then you said, yeah, but that's not my explanation about diagnostics. So this is how we work all the time. What do you mean? What can it mean? What is the connotation, etc.? And also, I want to say, you can feel that we have a little preference for the right upper corner, but can be that's in the same case. Sometimes you must resist one aspect and accept another, and be firm about very important small things at the same time, and sometimes say, I can't force you, but this is really my advice. So also here I would say it's not either or, like you very well explained, and I love that. It's both and, always. It's just so... Finally, we decided to call it not diagnostic, but reflection. Reflection, yeah. Yeah, that's better. It's always reflection. It's reflection about our work, reflection about our attitude, reflection about our methods. And we like to do that in small groups, like 3 or 4 people, and take only a little bit of time for the first exercise, because that's more case-focused, and take more time to the second exercise, which is focused on yourself and on the relation with the case, whether it be in a school or in a family or in an organization. And then apply the compass to yourself. And it is both ways. It's the way that you're invited by the situation to do a certain thing. I don't know if you recognize that. But also, can you have more agency in that you decide deliberately to change your attitude and your strategies. So, and that's a circular way. We should have put this on the chairs. We have forgotten, but I will share.
Ik heb er nog een paar. Moet ik... Zijn er genoeg? Maar iedereen heeft nu? Oké. En dan laten we de dia staan, hè?
You have about a quarter of an hour, and then we will share your experiences with the compass. So not exactly what you decided in a certain case, but how you experienced it. It's supposed to be a helpful navigational instrument. Hans likes walking in the mountains. I am a sea sailor, so I know that if you change a course only 1 or 2 degrees, you get into a different harbor. So it has to be flexible.
Laten we dit staan, hè?
hello, hello again. Time flies. I will ask you to end your conversation for the time now, for the time being, I would like to say, because we hope, actually, that you will continue this conversation during the conference and after, and maybe share it with your colleagues in your home country. Well, as I said, especially because we're with 45 people here, it's impossible to hear all the specific ideas about what you found about cases, etc. But we would love to share, no, first of all, to give you also the possibility in working with the Compass if you have any questions. So if you say, I still don't get it, or I have a question about this or that, that's possible. And the other thing is that we'd love to hear some of your experiences with it. If you, like Hans said, it's in my mind, in my heart, in my body, and it helps me to navigate, especially in the more complex the cases, the more helpful it is to go very often in a reflective stance and use it. But that's our idea, and we worked on it for years. So, so we are very interested in what your experience with it was. And for the online people, it would be very nice if you would go to the microphone. If that's too far away, we can repeat the questions or the experiences. Who would like to share some of his thoughts, experiences, feelings? It's always difficult to be the first one.
I would like to share something.
Could you go to the micro?
Really? Is
You can also come with me.
Oh, really?
It's not so far.
Yeah. So we talked about a case, and what we found out that it's also really important to have a good connection with your team members. That it's that you're feeling safe to share your opinion, and that is very, very valuable.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah, that's what we discussed.
Yeah,
And
if you think about such a thing like I need support, where are you then in the compass?
Come again?
If you stress the focus, and I understand that you need support, especially in complex cases when there's a lot at stake. And where in the compass are you then if you need the support, want the support?
Yeah, I think it's important to also focus on yourself and on the constructive, how you say it, liability of your team members. Yeah. Something like this.
Yeah. And your need.
Wonderful. It's your
need.
It means that immediately you're already on what do I need to support this, to be creative in a strategy or whatever. I can't do this alone. Yeah. It's not that they are difficult, they don't listen to me. I love it. So, but that's why I ask another question, because there is a reason why you say this. Yeah. And maybe it's from the bottom of your heart and you don't need the compass, but it's, this is...
I need it.
Yeah, so, no, but because this, we thought it is, we aim it especially, we also share it in parent groups, by the way, so that parents can reflect on their attitude to the child. But now the focus on the workshop is our professional attitude and our relation with our clients and pupils maybe. And you have all these parallel processes. So we can say, the parents, you can't do it, we have said it a lot, you can't do it without support, it's impossible, you never will reach your goal. But you said, I need support, I love it. Who else? I will do it like this, it's more, I come to you instead that you have to come to the micro.
Okay, thank you. It was just like an observation. I was looking, listening, there was a very good questionnaire. And I was thinking about like a wisdom of the child. When a child says to somebody, everything you say, you are your own self. The mechanism of projection. Because we saw a case. First there was demonization. Then we were looking to oneself as a mother. And in the same thing, we want to be close to the mother. So the demonization of the mother was kind of a projection of our own things we wouldn't accept, and that I found very nice to see.
So you were also reflecting on this parallel process.
Yes, like
Yeah,
the different worlds,
Yeah.
the opposite worlds. The opposite worlds, I think. Like
yeah,
Yuri said this. So if you say something opposite, if you say something opposite that as is expected, you come to like a little truth.
yeah, beautiful. And also, it could also work as that you are going to demonize the person who is demonizing. At least that I feel it sometimes in myself, quite often actually. And then I need support and I need reflection and I need to calm down in order to think, yeah, but maybe it's not, it's understandable that the mother is demonizing, so I shouldn't demonize her. I should even ask from the stance of maintaining the relation, tell more about it, for example. While in the beginning, I'm very invited to come into the expert person or even in the obligation to win. And then this helps me, don't. Find another way, try it. And you don't have to go from one corner to the other, but just a little bit more in that direction is already helpful. Yeah, wonderful, thank you. Who else? Here, baby. You're so far away of the group. A private place, wonderful. Is there anything you want to share? Or you're not obliged? No? Okay, wonderful.
So I want to thank my lovely group because they were so helpful. So yeah, but they were so helpful to me in thinking through a particular situation with a family that I felt quite stuck with, and I think I'm in the accommodation and complying bit where I've got to the place where I'm almost walking a tightrope with the parents, because one of the things, it's a very difficult situation with a child that's on the verge of an adoption breakdown, so it's very tricky, but one parent is less in that camp than the other, lots of difficulties. Anyway, and I was feeling very stuck and wondering what my next steps could be, and it feels so simple now that we've kind of talked about it, but I couldn't get there, and it was something around having seen them on Zoom for about a year, and there was like, oh really, and a lovely art therapist as well, like creative ideas about drawing, and I was thinking, well, this is hard on Zoom. So the idea was, well, why don't you meet halfway? And then you could, talk about this in a different way and maybe have some creative ideas. And I was thinking, of course. And immediately I had like an opening of the brain and ideas begin to come. And I'm no longer in that place. And I'm thinking of my presence, how I am physically there, actually what that will mean energetically for them, that this is a suggestion to come together, and then what can be generated, what non-violent steps, what's out there for us. It just feels so much more positive. So, yeah, it feels great. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing, and how recognizable it is, Hans, isn't it? That you can really feel completely out of it and helpless and powerless and not knowing what to do, and then you feel it's not that I have to be totally the opposite, but I can, first of all, I can be more present. And so then you're changing your course. Maybe it's already, I think, like 10 or 20 degrees, not 1 or 2. It's great, but it's the first feeling of I'm not a victim of what is happening there. I'm again in control and agency myself, and then I will see what will happen. And then you meet, and then afterwards again you talk to your colleagues, and you says, and the second step, we say a voyage of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. It's a very well-known quote, but this is how our work is, and just like Hans explained. Also, it's relational. It's like time and again we do the same. So whatever you do different in whatever corner is already something different and is giving space and air. Thank you.
The parallel process is also that you give an example for the youngster, huh? So it's about agency, more or less, and when you feel your own agency as a helper, you can transfer it to the parents, or at least talk with them about agency, so they can talk about the agency of the youngster self. And the agency is not the same as what I feel and what I want that has to be done. So in the example of the girl who don't want to eat, that's a kind of agency, but it's not the agency for life. And so you can address the agency of the girl, but not accept in a way. You have to accept it in a way, but you can't accept it in another way that she don't want to eat. But agency for her is probably a very important aspect of her life. So that's the parallel, always these parallels. It's very interesting to feel that.
I think maybe a last one, Rikke, from Denmark. So good to see
The only one from Denmark.
She organized a conference in Malmö. So
Yeah. So where are the other 200 Danes? I don't know, but I'm representing. Okay, I was very lucky to present a case with someone who knew this model, and they're like, "You're all over," and you really take yourself around in this. And it was, so I have them explain to me what is it that I do that I take myself around. But I just noticed, and you must notice this too, there is an overlap from that part to the down part, because I'm an expert in NVR. So what happens when I say to parents, I need you to do this. This is very, because I talk with that voice, and I'm sorry, but the only way we can go forward, if this has to change, we need to do this. I put myself in this corner where I can sound as rigid as any other, but I analyze it with that tool up there. So you must find that as well.
Yeah.
And what does it connect with you?
I recognize it very much. That was maybe that's a nice story to end this workshop. That was when we had the first masterclass in 2005 from Chaim Omer. I had on Friday. On Monday I had a family. I was going to say to them, I have no idea what I can do anymore. I'm helpless as you, and etc. Then after this masterclass I said, I've been to school. I've heard something interesting. I have no clue how it's going to work. Are you willing to try it with me together? We both bought the book. It were luckily parents who were able to read English, and we studied it together. And it was a tremendously effective treatment. Then afterwards, I became like, how do you call them? Jehovah's getuigen? What is that? The witnesses, the knocking on the door. I was one like that. I wasn't saying myself as an expert, but I have really good experiences with this, and you should do this. This is the only possibility. And no one said yes to my offer. And that made me humble. And now I say, after a lot of questions and connecting first and getting an alliance, I say, I might have some ideas that might be helpful. Shall I tell you something about it? And if you don't want it, no problem. And then it's going to work, because then you are in dialogue, and then sometimes they are immediately hooked because it's something different. So anything better than nothing. And then I said, I prefer you to think it over and phone me next week, like so. I can recognize it, and to be honest.
So I have an offer, and maybe it connects to your suffering. Huh?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
That's the movement.
And to your need, to what you feel you need. Yeah.
And not, this is what has to be done.
And
it's
also
a possibility, and does it connect to the need of you?
Yeah. And we definitely say it's not a method as such. We say it's helpful interventions, strategies, with a certain attitude, as you can understand. And we are going to puzzle together what will work in your situation. And then again, together with the clients, we also use the compass. We have to come to an end because we are hungry, I think. I hope
the way was the goal, huh?
Yeah. Thank you, Hans, for your wonderful explanation. Thank you for the way you all discussed. So good. See you there. Oh, yeah. And our, you can write down our email addresses. We're not sure yet whether we have to send it to the organization, but you can also connect to us directly. You're very welcome to have questions or to share your experiences and ask for the PowerPoint. Okay. We see each other at lunch and afterwards. Thank you.